So you've just gone on record there to tell us that if I fly at 165 over an FRZ above a prison that says 164, then I will get no action taken against myself. So, who are you? Sorry to say that rudely, but are you? What's your collar number?
So, I am PC 21750 Lang. You guys have clearly got a bit of an agenda.
No.
No, you have clearly got an agenda.
SA1 eVTOL. It's a passenger air taxi murder. eVTOL stands for Electric Vertical Takeoff Landing. And we're working closely with Supernal, who are part of the Hyundai Motor Group. In front of us, you can see our FATO moving up and down at the moment, which stands for Final Approach Takeoff. This is where the drones take off from. It's a split platform, powered by 6 electric motors and 10 mechanical link lifts, and it can take a payload of 4,500 kilograms. So, after we do...
Not very often you get to film a scanner like this, is it? The Orion 918CX. Mavic 2 Enterprise. And it's turned on, you can actually hear it. Someone's got their operator ID there. And here we have the West Midlands Police drone. I've got some questions for them. West Midlands Police doing the group chat. It does look like on that screen there that it has got a thermal imaging camera on it. Got some kit on that table, look. But look at that for a beast. The Supernal. Look at all the propellers on it. Jesus. Not taking any chances, are there? I do wonder what would happen in a big hailstorm though, with a sheet of hail just coming down from the top.
Get rid of it straight away. The cards are formatted at the end of the shift, so the data is gone. However, if we went out there and, for example, we caught someone having a head stamped on and they die, we'd retain it for at least 100 years. So it could be anywhere in between. It depends if it's evidential or non-evidential. So it depends on the type of footage we got as to how long it's kept. Most officers now you see wear body cameras when they're out in the street. The company who make them is a company called Axon. What we do with the footage, we take it back to a police station, we put it onto a computer, it then goes onto the Axon system. So the footage is stored and saved in exactly the same way as all the officers with body cameras. So it goes onto their systems, their servers. It's all encrypted, it's very, very safe. So we don't actually store any information on the drones themselves. It all goes back to the station and ultimately ends up on the police Axon service.
When you say it hasn't yet, didn't one of them crash into someone's house?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Down south, I think it was a police drone crashed into someone's house.
Not West Mids though?
No, right, yeah, different force, yeah.
Possibly a different force, but obviously on West Mids, none of our drones have ever caused damage to property that I'm aware of. So yeah.
Do you use every drone on the table then?
Yes, ultimately yes.
Could you talk us through them?
Yeah, absolutely. So this one here, Mavic Dual, thermal camera and a normal camera that's built into it. So daytime flights, nighttime flights, not a problem, absolutely fine. That primarily is used for our spontaneous jobs. So if you phone us up at 3 o'clock in the morning and says there's someone in my back garden and we want to deploy quickly to something, this is the type of drone we use. So you get to a location, get out of the car, and it's like that. Quite simply, you just unfold it. You can turn it on, set the controller, away it goes, nice and quick for us to deploy with.
So does it ship with a thermal imaging camera?
Sorry?
Does it ship from the factory with a thermal imaging camera?
Yes.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, that's how they come to us, yes. The larger drone, predominantly what we use that for are your larger events, protests, things like that. So you might see on the telly in a bit, football matches where you've got big crowds. You can just stay in the hover for that little bit longer in the sky. So it's better for us that if we just leave it in the hover, it can just stay there. We don't have to bring it back, change batteries over. That will stay in the sky. We tend to leave it for about 40 minutes, normally before we do a battery change. Very, very capable bit of kit, very, very good camera on it. So yeah, mainly predominantly protests, large events, spontaneous events. The smaller one that you can see, Mavic Mini. I believe you've got one of these.
Do you know me?
I recognise your voice.
Really?
Yes, I do, yeah. So,
Wow.
So Mavic Mini, as you're well aware, 249 grams. You can pretty much fly it anywhere you want. All you need is an operator ID. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, pretty much fly it wherever you want. Really good drone.
You guys, do you use the FPV drone as well?
We don't use that one operationally.
Okay.
We've only, at the moment, we started using that for training internally. Predominantly because we think the way drones are going at some point will potentially be towards FPV. So we almost want to be a bit ahead of the curve in terms of our training. But we're not using that one operationally as yet.
Do you see the BV loss coming in anytime soon?
Potentially.
Is that something you guys are privy to?
We're not privy to it, but potentially, yes, it would be something we would like to do, because ultimately this is about providing a service for West Midlands Police and ultimately the public, and everything we do always comes back to money, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So if we're saving money for the force, saving money for the taxpayer, then the more we can use these for, the
They
better.
really are safe as well, aren't they? You know,
They are.
they're
Yeah.
really
Ultimately,
safe
they're very safe,
things to
and
use.
we certainly have lots of training to be able to fly them.
Definitely.
We have ongoing training within the police. So we've all got our fire IDs, we've got GVC A2 CFC
That's what I was
qualifications.
going to ask you, the JVC you've got.
Sorry?
Is it the JVC you guys train to?
Yes, yeah, A2 CFC, which is GVC qualification, yes.
Right.
So yeah, just really good bits of kit, and it's about, it's another tool in our toolbox. We can go out there, if we can go and catch the baddies, that's what we're here to do ultimately.
Well, they said it can save a lot of money as well.
We do. It does save a lot of money. There is
Just makes
still,
sense, doesn't it? Really, it really does make
absolutely.
sense.
So there is still a place for the helicopter, absolutely, 100%. So things like your pursuits and that we can't fly a drone for, as it stands at the moment, we can still bring the helicopter in and use it for that. Most other things now, what we actually like default to is a drone. It's so much cheaper ultimately, but it still gets the same kind of results for members of the public.
Do you know when you're resting and you're not required?
Yes.
Do you ever do things like look for cannabis factories in lofts?
We do get tasked, so if we have information and intelligence come to us that there might be a cannabis factory somewhere, what we can do is actually go out and do a thermal flyover of that particular property to see if it is giving off a heat source.
So do you know how you encourage the members of the public to report the smells where they suspect a cannabis factory is?
Yeah.
You guys, while you're resting, you could actually be going out looking for them yourself, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Do you?
Essentially we do, yes.
Without intelligence, do you actually proactively find them yourself?
Oh no, that has to be the intelligence.
Why?
So intelligence is submitted because what we don't do, we don't go out there proactively kind of looking like you see, because ultimately once you're at home, right to private life and things like that, we don't just go looking, we will respond to incidents.
So without the intelligence, if you do stumble upon something but nobody's reported it as a problem, you won't act upon it.
Oh, what we would do then,
across it,
things like that have happened in the past. So we've been at a job and we've noticed a particular property where we think there's a heat source being given up. We can then submit that intelligence. We go to the local officers for them to look at and potentially try and develop an action further on down the line.
Because as a taxpayer, knowing that you guys are resting and you've got all this brilliant kit with all these thermal imaging cameras, but we know that there's a lot of cannabis grows around us, wouldn't it make sense for your time to be used in a way that would benefit the community rather than resting?
I mean, that's like an opinion. Whether or not I share that opinion, that's up to me. But the police stance on it with all our things about human rights and everything like that.
There has to be a balance.
We don't go out and use surveillance side of things.
Okay.
We're not just going out there just randomly flying above people's houses and looking.
Of course they would object to it, wouldn't they? They say, well, nobody's reported me as a problem, but you've come and found me. So that you would class that as their rights being abused, would you? Have they got a right to grow a cannabis farm in their loft? Do you know what I mean?
Of course, I haven't got the right.
Yeah.
Because the law says you can't do it. But what we can't do is just go out there randomly looking.
That's interesting.
What we would do, we would respond to the intelligence.
Well, the criminals will be thanking you for that.
Yeah, they'll be loving that.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, I think it was like the first or second time I took my drone out, it was snowing. And I found one.
I mean, the thing is, if it's snowing, you could just walk down the road. You could look what roof hasn't got ice on it, or snow on it. So,
do you know, in our spare time, if we pass some information to you, will we become a paid informant to let you guys know?
Ultimately, what you could do is talk to the police, and you could become a chief, like covert intelligence source.
No thanks. Please don't take him.
And there are people.
Oh, you need him for an operation?
Yeah, we're going to fly now. So
Oh wow, okay, brilliant.
Yeah, so if you pop around by the cafe, these guys will go outside and fly, and you'll actually be able to see what we can see on the screens in there.
Can we resume later?
Can do.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. Wow, so there you heard him say it here first, that they don't proactively go out looking for the cannabis growers. It has to be reported, but we could become a registered informant. No thank you. Oh, but yeah, they're going to take the drone out now, so that'll be interesting to see. And you can clearly see, look, the thermal imaging camera. Now the camera is just, it must be, oh yeah, it's that one there, the Mavic 2 over there. So I look a little bit hot. I'll show you that. I look a little bit hot under my armpits there, look, and also on my head. And my trousers look a bit hot, and my hand.
Right, so we're going to fly this up first.
So yeah, a close-up of what's on the table there, look, that's the FPV one that they use, and they put the goggles on. And that's the Mini 2, which he says, you've got one of them, haven't you? Oh dear. But he says that weighs 10 kilograms. I doubt whether he'd take that over a crowd of people directly above them. But a real life passenger drone, look. And I wonder if it does need a pilot in it still. They're the questions that I've got to ask later on. So he's just gone outside there with the controller, and the beast, the 10 kilogram beast, is here. So I presume they're going to come and take it into the middle there. So we'll go round to our viewing position and take a look. So here they go. They're taking it onto the launch pad. It's a shame we're behind this screen. I'd love to hear the sound it makes.
It really is a temporary thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Plastic, that.
Has to open his propellers out, look. I'm sure the force.
I'm sure it'd open itself
Yeah.
up.
I wonder if it's going to raise up so that we can't see it.
Well, that would mean they can't see it.
Yeah, that's true.
No visual line of sight. I was just thinking the same thing, to be honest.
Yeah, they've not got line of sight on takeoff, have they? They're going to lose it at some point if they're inside. So that's interesting how it can just raise that quarter. So they must raise it so that they can actually keep line of sight at all times. I'm just going to try and get a better angle on this.
So there's two lights. They're up on a cherry picker, and then they're going to go outside. They're going to go outside flying for us.
On a cherry picker?
We'll be able to see on the screen what they can see whilst they're in the sky.
Oh, on the screen. Oh dear. So there it goes. It's just gone up, and they've even given us a screen to look at. So this is what they will be able to see on their controller. And you can just see the propeller in the top left.
What they'll probably is fly to an altitude of around about 50 to 60 metres high. Then look for a safe area where they can go and hover the aircraft over. And then once they're in that position, they'll leave this aircraft in a hover, and then they'll start panning the cameras around, and they'll start showing you some of the capabilities of this camera, of this drone. So that's now looking back at us. We can now see the second half of the platform that's rising up. And once that platform is locked and in position, then they'll start having a look around Coventry and see what we can see. Okay, so as we can see on the screen there, they're just on a slow pan round, looking out towards Coventry. We don't have to be massively high in the air, and we can actually have a good view and already what's going on. Obviously see way more than police officers who are down on street level. We get a much better view of surrounding roads and surrounding areas. Okay, and I believe what they're about to do is show you the capability of the zoom that's on the camera. So the camera fixed to this drone has a 200 times zoom capability. Wow. So a very, very good, very capable camera.
200 times zoom.
The weather vane on top of the Coventry Cathedral. And now I would imagine they'll probably zoom back out to show you the contrast between what it's like when it's zoomed in and then when it's zoomed out, so you get an idea of how good that zoom camera actually is.
Incredible, isn't it? He's got no idea.
Again, that's demonstrating the zoom of the camera, obviously picking up people there on top of the building. It's a good job they're working hard, so the gaffers don't have to 5-minute break. But again, if that was someone on top of a rooftop, something like that, where maybe someone's making off, there's a police officer down on the ground. We may not necessarily be able to sit there and detect what's going on, but this just gives us that eye in the sky capability. And ultimately it's a chance for us to go out there and catch the bad guys that we may otherwise struggle to catch and see exactly what's going on. What they've done here, they've switched into a thermal mode on the camera. Normally this would get used at night time, so if we're in large open spaces, parklands, maybe dark ultimately, if it's very, very dark at night, we can switch into thermal, and we not then rely on daylight. So just because it goes dark in the evening, doesn't mean we stop being able to go out there and catch people. We can, in some ways for us, it's actually easier at night time because there's less people about, and the thermal images just show up on the screen that little bit easier for us to stand out. Obviously at daytime, you can still see there that anything that's warmer is still standing out in the images. But predominantly for us, this is where we'd use it during the night. Okay, so what they've started to do now, it's a feature on this drone called Active Track. The drone itself now is locked on to that bus, and it's the drone itself and the camera that's now following the bus that they've chosen to follow at this time. Again, if that was an offender that we're going to try to track down the street and follow, the pilot might have several things going on. They might be trying to direct officers on the radio, they might be having to deal with other stuff. This is where the drone really can start tracking someone, and that can try and keep that focus and follow those people for us on our behalf. Makes our job as pilots that a little bit easier. Okay, and it looks like now what the pilot's starting to do, that's no longer the zoom moving on the camera, that's the actual drone itself moving. So what they'll do now, they'll come back over so that they took off from, line the drone up, and then they'll look at coming straight back down vertically onto the platform. You can just about start to pick up on the sound of the drone now. So again, I'm sure we've all been there at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning when we've been woken up by the police helicopter. As members of the public, you're much less likely to get disturbed in the night with the drone. So that's, I'm guessing, probably about 30 or 40 minutes uphill, and we're just about hearing it now through the cameras. So again, during the night, if you're asleep in bed, you're probably less likely to get disturbed. Obviously, much better for the environment. We're not pumping out all the aviation fuel into the air. And ultimately, we're starting to save money as well for Westminster Police, and ultimately, down to the taxpayer, we're starting to save money rather than using a helicopter for every job that we deploy to. And those are our two pilots in a nice way for up in the cherry pick at the moment, make sure that they have line of sight of the drone as they take off on land, and whilst it's been in flight for you.
So there you go. The question about having line of sight, that was up on a cherry picker all that time, and they raised the vertiport platform so that they could see it from takeoff all the way through to landing.
So that drone has now landed, so if possible I'll press the button on my radio so they can hear your rapturous applause for their safe flight. So, So that was our sort of flagship drone in use there. You've been able to see some of the features that we use on it on quite a regular basis. My name's John, you can have a chat to me. I'm over at the stand just around the corner there. The two pilots, Paul and Matt, they're obviously two of our drone pilots. Come and say hello to us. If you've got any questions, we'll do our best to answer them for you.
And this is what a controller looks like for the big beast.
Thanks for joining our colleagues at Westminster Police for that excellent demonstration. Remember safe landing here at Air 1. Just to let you all know, due to the popularity of
it is a DJI controller, look.
Please do tell your friends and family. Go to urbanairport.com. We're here until the 15th of May. Fantastic.
Do you know how the controller says DJI? Is the actual drone made by DJI? Oh right, okay. It didn't say DJI on it at all, did it? Just on the camera. Yeah. And is that type of drone that weighs 10 kilos? Is that available for sale to the members of the public?
I believe so. So commercial businesses use them. So a lot of companies will now use them if they're doing like checks of like power lines, for example. Right. Maybe rooftop surveys. We were talking to someone the other week who uses them for offshore oil rigs. Right. Actually sending them out and doing surveys of those kind of buildings. So definitely commercially available. Yeah. Have a look if you can buy one privately yourself. Have a look at I've just got to turn it.
Yeah, you go, mate.
Look, I'm more than happy.
Yeah. I don't want to hold you up. So yeah, this whole thing, it's all a temporary structure, and it's only here for a short time, and they're going to move it from city to city just to demonstrate what it could be like in the future with passenger drone transportation like this. We saw it being built when I came last time, and I did say I will be returning to check it out. So everything around here, even down to these where they've put the cameras up with these temporary clamps, even all the wires that are just on a very strong cable at the back with all cable ties, it's all very, very temporary. You can just tell it's made to move from place to place. But coming so close to scanners like this, I mean, in airports where you see scanners like this, you're just not allowed to film at all. And this is what the arrival and departures area will be like. So before you get onto the drone, you'd have to go through security. You put your belongings through the X-ray, you walk through the scanner, just like you do at court or in an airport. It's even got disabled access getting up to the stand. And you'd come up and then you'd go onto the platform and you'd enter the drone. And I'm sure the journey from one drone airport, or a vertiport, like they're called, to the next would be very, very quick, and they can be put anywhere, look. So even if there's not a long runway and these far out places, hard to reach places, they all become accessible using one of these vertiports. Oh, this is like the control room, and you can see clearly there we're in a flight restriction zone. Altitude Angel, so that is actually drone assist, but the web version, and it says in the URL operationsmanager.altitudeangel.com, and we know that the drone assist front screen says Altitude Angel on it, as shown just there. Altitude Angel drone assist. And here they've got weatherlink.com, and you can see the temperature, the wind speed, wind direction, wind rose, total rain, current rain, humidity, barometer, local forecast, sunset, sunrise, noon phase, THW index, inside temperature and humidity, and it shows you that where the current station is that you're looking at. Just demonstrates lots of examples of what would be in the control room of some sort of vertiport. And you can see here that when the flight is approved, it comes up on the log there, look, and you've got West Midlands Police, flight 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. The flight that we've just seen on the 6th of May. Hi. Oh, not allowed past the barrier, no problem. It's all interesting stuff, isn't it? What's that little thing over there?
They operate from there.
Oh, the main big drone, the passenger drone. Does the passenger drone have a pilot in it?
No. It's just a demo here.
Yeah, but in real life, would it have a pilot in?
Yeah.
Oh, so a member of staff would always be in the drone?
Yeah.
You sure?
You need to ask that Greg, person Greg.
Oh, behind
Yeah.
there, okay. What are you, like security? Oh, sorry. And that's the drone from the other side. Big bright green lights on the right on the edge of the wing. But what a beast, eh? Wow. And there we have the Armed Forces version of a drone airport.
At breakneck speed, really fast. So as I said, about 30 minutes, 25-30 minutes to get from here to London. 180 miles an hour.
Is it restricted to takeoff and landing positions?
It will be down to civil aviation authority.
Yeah, but you've got to land somewhere to put people on.
Yeah, so we have to have multiple of these.
Yeah,
that's why we're trying to get 200 across.
200 in the UK?
200 across the world. And several in the city, in cities around the UK, yeah.
Do they all need a pilot inside?
There's 3 variants that we're looking at. One is a piloted version, which the version there has. A second is a remote pilot, somebody sitting in a space controlling it. And the third is unmanned. Now the unmanned element is going to be probably the longest to bring in because it's trusting the online site delivery.
From your experience, would you say the way forward in the first launch period would be a manned one?
Yeah,
right.
I think the Civil Aviation Authority is going to be very conservative and slowly peel back, and most authorities across the world will be like that.
Because we're
Yeah, they're very conservative, so they just want to say, but don't forget it was the British government that helped fund part of this project. Yeah. So they are committed and they understand the importance of this. Future Flight Challenge pumped £2.2 million into this project, and then Hyundai put the other half in. And that's what we're sitting in now, from visualisation to realisation.
What's this cost then? This demo?
Yeah, well, it varies. So we built this for just over 4 million. If you wanted to buy one, obviously it depends on the spec because we can build. So what do? We build, we sell, we operate, and we design air infrastructure on the ground. We don't do drones, and so that allows us to build to whatever's necessary. So if a customer wants something 3 times bigger than this or 2 times smaller, we can do that. And so we'll have certain sort of structures and prototypes like this, but it will vary. How much does it cost? It depends on the scale and the size, but broadly something like this, less than 20 million, sub 20 million.
What is your market you're looking to satisfy? Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's pretty cheap, 20 million. That drone is about 20 million just for the drone.
I can believe it.
So something sub 20 million, depending on what you want. I mean, what sort of array do you want in here in terms of technology, cyber defence and emergency response capabilities? That will cost.
Well, you want what's necessary at the top level, not at any lower level.
Well, the military will want C5 ISR capabilities, which really advanced SATCOM systems and so on. So that will boost the price there. But they might install that themselves.
So are you saying that the government have funded 20 million in full to pay for this?
No, this cost over 4 million, so they're about 2.2 million.
Oh, so government have put 2.2 million in. And is Urban Airport a private company that's going to take the profits?
No, what it is that it's a Future Flight Challenge where the government put about £80 million out and about 19 projects were successful. We were successful in doing that.
Right.
And they wanted to advance urban air mobility as a system, and we were the catalyst to do that with this airport infrastructure.
So when it is all up and running and you've got your 200, will you then be making profit as a company as Urban Airport? Is it Urban Airport Limited?
Yeah.
Is it registered in the UK as that? Yeah. Right, okay.
Who actually is the owner at the moment, or the group of owners?
Yeah, so Ricky Sandberg is the chief person, the founder, and is also the chairman. Brilliant, open-minded guy. And it's supported, it's owned partly by Hyundai as well. And that's about it really in terms of the ownership. And then we are looking to, at some point, go to IPO, which is
you've got to pay for 200 operations.
Yeah, somehow the government won't be there for those, will there?
Exactly, that's right.
Yeah, yeah.
We're looking forward to seeing where this goes going forward. The market for this globally is about $1 trillion in the next 20 years. NASA did some research and they said that in America there's about $500 billion worth of potential growth in this urban air mobility. So it's a huge market.
I thought there's potential here for seed funding currently at a lower level for the public.
Yeah.
And don't forget, this isn't just for rich people. A lot of people say, oh, this is going to be too expensive. No, we're working on models of getting this into Africa, Asia, Latin America, and developing countries with climate funds, which are available across the world, so that we can bring this to developing economies and use it as a catalyst after COVID to boost their economy. So they'd have asset ownership or part ownership in this with us, and that would then drive their economy up in terms of value. So this is about serving all sorts of people.
So if Simon Cowell, for example, money no object, if he wanted a drone, what do you call them, a vertiport?
Yeah.
If he wanted a vertiport built by yourselves on his land, would you say yes?
Of course we would.
Brilliant.
Yeah, of course we would. We've got an open book for different types of customers.
Right.
There could be sheiks that want to buy these or whatever, but this also is for the common people. It's really important, otherwise it's not going to work.
And would you always try and put it in a non-FRZ? Or does that not matter?
It all depends upon the conditions, because when we go global, it really depends on what the conditionalities are. To give you some idea, in parts of the world, like Africa, they don't even have a geographical location for their own home. So we have postcodes and we know where things come. So we're working with things like what 3 words.
Yeah.
And that allows us to geolocate a space, a village or a house in parts of the world.
Or in the crowd.
Yeah. So it allows us to move across into that environment and solve problems. The Saudi postal system is very good in the cities, but once you get out into the nether regions, it's very difficult. So along the journey, we're going to fix a number of problems as well.
So every time West Midlands Police want to take off then, and they're in a FRZ right now, aren't they?
Yeah.
So who do they ask for permission from?
They have their own permission to go through that with the aviation authorities. So they actually have a license to be able to fly whenever.
So they've got a blanket permission to fly whenever you want in an FRZ?
You better speak to them about that. But
I don't think that's within a quarter of a mile.
They have to ring air traffic control and get permission to fly through.
I don't know their inside operations. You need to, they're on the other side. You probably don't want to speak to them. But broadly speaking, they can launch pretty much whenever they need to. I know that they've done over 300 drone operations in the last year. Sorry, 3,000. Get it right. 3,000 drone operations in the last year.
So go on. One last question for me, then I'll leave the gentleman to it. If Simon Cowell wanted one of these, a small vertiport on his land, how much would it cost him?
How much?
Ballpark.
Can you give us a quote today?
Same as this.
Just big enough for Simon Cowell to have a passenger drone, a small one for him and his family.
As I said, sub 20 million. It depends on the
20 mil?
Sub 20 million, whatever they want, whatever size they want to build.
Annual operating cost?
Annual operating cost for this? I don't know, it depends how many, what the costs are.
He wants to know that today before he puts his order in.
True.
I'm going back to him later.
This is him in disguise, don't worry.
I'll leave you to your fellow customers. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
So we're now going back to Simon Cowell to tell him about this new vertiport that you can have. Simon, forget about helicopters. This is the future, my friend. I know you've got 20 mil spare. So yeah, this is all the people that have been involved. I mean, What 3 Words, as you've just heard there, some of these hard to reach places, they don't have addresses, so What 3 Words is going to be heavily involved. Sir Robert McAlpine, we saw them building the place back in the start when we came last time. Obviously Coventry City Council are behind it, and the university are learning stuff from it as well. You've got Flight Crowd there, Tritium, Super Now. You've got loads of big boys that are involved with this project. Here's some examples of where the drone has been useful.
Yeah.
Festivals, look.
So one of those, the kind of latest one, with all the kind of peripherals bits and pieces and spare batteries, is about £500. You can get Argos are selling the previous model for about £450, I think, at the moment, relatively cheap. So yeah, you can go out and buy it. And this is the thing people buy for Christmas birthdays, just as a bit of a splurge. And then they'll end up flying because the flight restrictions are I think Birmingham particularly is massive, and you think we're in the FRZ, Coventry Airport, you've got all of those things. People just fly in their back garden. It's a toy you bought from Ibex, you wouldn't really expect. You've got to go to the Civil Aviation Authority and get your operator ID and that sort of thing. So what we're doing is with the detections that we get in the FRZ, for example, we'll just go out, knock on the door and say, do you realise where you are, and educate and just sort of reach out to these people. It's great fun, it's brilliant. But sometimes people are just unaware. I mean, you could say ignorance is no excuse, but if they're not really being that dangerous, just flying around their back garden and that sort of thing, if we tell them that, well, you need to make sure you've got your operator ID and why don't you go and fly here, and there's a drone club there and that sort of thing, it helps people out so they don't get themselves into trouble later on. Fortunately, we haven't really had much in the way of prosecutions or anything like that, so yeah, it's working. There are people that do fly them, but mainly it's just they're unaware that these are actually very clever bits of kit that really should be registered.
Do you know if they are aware and they intentionally fly in an FRZ?
Yeah.
You said there's been little prosecution so far. Has there been any?
Yes.
By West Midlands Police?
Yeah, we dealt with someone a few months ago.
Are you able to tell us what the sentence was?
No.
Right, okay. Is that public yet?
I don't know, to be honest.
Right.
I think the investigation might still be ongoing.
Okay. I'd like to attend that court case. Where would I find the public information about
if
it?
If you speak to corporate communications, ring head office, they might be able to actually tell.
Thank you. Yeah. Are you finished with your questions? Yeah. Now then, on the Drone Assist website, which we all have to check before we fly.
Yeah.
I'll show you the example there. You've got a prison, right? Yes. HMP Leicester, that is, and it clearly says that the piece of airspace that's being restricted, look on the last line, is between the surface and 164.
You're catching me in my age here.
It's a very interesting question that's going around. It relates, the very last line, look, relates to surface to 164 AGL, above ground level, yeah?
Yeah.
So are you saying then, I can raise my drone to 165 outside the FRZ and then enter it?
Well, that's what that's suggesting. That is a, what do you call them, a geofence placed on there by DJI.
No, that's the Drone Assist Angel app.
Yeah, that's a geofence around the prison.
No, that's the flight restriction zone.
It's a flight restriction zone, the software that you use.
Yeah, which is a geofence placed by DJI on that area.
No, that's incorrect.
Okay, well, maybe you can tell me.
So, my understanding of it is, and we're trying to get the answer really.
Yeah.
The Civil Aviation Authority.
The thing that concerns me is why you actually want to fly over a prison at 165 feet.
Well, that's not the question. The question is, are we allowed to? So this flight restriction says it's 164 feet AGL, above ground limit.
Yeah.
So we're allowed to fly to 400 feet. So my understanding of that would be you can fly between 165 and 400. As long as you're following CAP 722, as long as you're following the drone code and everything else that's in place.
Yeah.
Now I've asked a question to the Civil Aviation Authority, and it's not something that they're able to answer at the minute. I'm still waiting for a response. They've had to send it off to their specialist team, and we're just waiting.
Well, as far as I would go on that is, you've got the above ground level, 165 feet, down to the surface. Anything above that, but below 400 feet. Yeah,
so my understanding of it seems to be correct.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I mean, I'd certainly agree with you on that. If the Civil Aviation Authority come back with something slightly different, because it's an emerging thing, isn't it? This is all brand new technology.
I would suggest they'll probably come back with, yes, you're correct, but with some advisories.
Well, yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I mean, the fact that you want to fly over a prison is questionable motivations there, because there are issues of people flying drones over prisons and dropping stuff in, from weapons to drugs to mobile phones.
Are you suggesting that I would fly over a prison, drop something in, and then put it on YouTube?
Oh, you're going to do that?
That would be a very silly thing to do.
Yeah, it would be very foolish. Yeah, and you could get prosecuted for that sort of thing.
But would you agree that having the restriction zone is to stop drugs being dropped over prisons? That's one of the reasons. But by having a 164-foot cap, the drugs could still be dropped from higher than that. So what's the point?
I don't know. I didn't come up with that geofence, to be honest, in that restriction zone. So,
but do you know, by us highlighting something before somebody abuses it,
yeah,
you might thank us for this.
I would suggest that it should be to 400 feet.
But so if we was,
it's not us that set these rules.
No, it's the Civil Aviation Authority.
Yeah. So yeah. I'd suggest that.
Would you agree with me that it should be to 400 foot? That you shouldn't be able to fly over a prison?
That would seem sensible.
It would, wouldn't it?
And if that's our aim, to highlight that potential loophole, isn't that a good thing? You're saying, why would you? Well, we're trying to help.
Yeah. We're just highlighting it, that's all.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So you've just gone on record there to tell us that if I fly at 165 over an FRZ above a prison that says 164, then I will get no action taken against myself. So, who are you? Sorry to say that rudely, but are you? What's your collar number?
So I am PC 21750 Lang. You guys have clearly got a bit of an agenda.
No.
No, you have clearly got an agenda. And I would suggest,
in your opinion,
that, well, I'm standing here. You're fully masked up. You've got 3 cameras on at once. You know, it's not the best impression. You're asking
3
me
cameras
whether you
that
can
you know
fly over a prison. But yeah, I would say sensibly, I don't know where they came up with that. As far as I'm aware, that's a geofence by DJI and not a Civil Aviation Authority.
I'll just show you once more.
No, the Civil Aviation Authority creates the FRZ, but the geofence for DJI is actually
that's not showing me
infinite.
anything.
No, the top left app. I'm just showing you the app, what it's called.
Assist,
yeah, that's familiar to yourself. So it's nothing to do with DJI, is it? It's separate.
No, they put the so if you look at Aston Villa Football Club.
Okay.
So DJI's geofence is actually from the ground to infinite height. So
yeah.
You couldn't go in with a DJI drone.
I don't set the geofences, but that's an FRZ. It does seem strange that it only goes up to a certain height.
It does to me.
I'm sure there's people
with
a far higher pay grade than me have actually come up with the idea for that.
Are you the highest rank on site at the moment?
We're all the same.
PC,
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever heard of DJI Aeroscope?
Have we?
Yeah.
Do you use them?
Yes.
Okay.
My understanding of DJI Aeroscope, it can just detect. Could you tell me whether it could disable?
No, it just detects things.
Okay. So, would a prison standard procedure use DJI Aeroscope?
I don't know. You'd have to ask the prison authority. I don't know. I mean, you can get them. You go on the DJI website; they're available to buy, like all this kind of kit. So,
I'm
certainly
sure they're all
give them a shout. They might be able to. Anyone can buy that kind of kit because they come on a stand, don't they? Yeah. So,
in your patch, do you know any big companies that do use it?
No.
Okay.
Not off the top of my head. I'm sure there are.
Because once they detect it, the next point of call would be to let you guys know that they've detected.
Yeah, and we do get calls. People say there's a drone flying overhead, and we'll deploy a unit to go and maybe have a chat with the pilot if you can find where the pilot is. And
if someone told you there was a drone flying about, what would your sort of line of questioning be, or would you just deploy and have a look?
Well, if you can find the pilot, which is very rare, because the issue you've got is the battery. So you fly for 20 minutes, and you might have a unit. You know what the police is like. It can take a while to get people there, unless it's a life-threatening emergency. But you'll get people turning up, and the drone will have landed and gone, and that sort of thing. But if you do find the person, we're perfectly at liberty to ask them to ground the drone. We'll have a chat, see what they're up to.
Just before DJ asks the next question, I just wanted to ask: would the call handler sort of go down there, ask any questions like what size drone it is, where they're flying, things like that?
Oh yeah, I suppose so.
Or
Yeah.
would you just
I'm not a
always
call handler.
deploy?
I don't know what questions they'd ask.
Right.
Sometimes we get very scant details on the on logs.
So I know my friend next to me wants to ask you a question now because of what you just said.
Yeah, I've been in a situation where I've been outside of an FRZ. I've been flying my drone because that's what I like to do, and the
They're great fun, aren't they?
police
Yeah,
have
they are.
arrived, and they've sort of thought they have the power to insist that I land the drone,
Yeah.
and for me to show them the operator ID. But there's no offence been committed because I've got line of sight. I'm not in an FRZ. My drone has got the operator ID printed on it, although they don't know that yet. It should be in my own time, once I've finished my lawful activity, that I bring it down and then they can see it. Are you telling me they can rush me to bring it down?
Oh, I wouldn't say rush because that would be a question of safety, but they can certainly demand it because we don't know whether you have actually committed any offence. So you can ask for a drone to be grounded to check things like you say, the operator ID for any offence.
Do you know which legislation that is that allows the police officer to just ground the
I
drone?
do.
Yeah. Could you tell us?
Could you quote it?
God, it's a right mouthful. The ATMUA, the Air Traffic Management and Unmanned Aircraft Bill of 2021.
And which section do you know?
Section 8, I think it is. Is it Section 8 off the top of my head?
Schedule 8 and Schedule 9 cover the things that you're talking about here.
Okay.
My understanding of it is, if the police officer has a reasonable suspicion that you're committing an offence with the drone, they can then ask you to ground the drone. They can ask for your operator ID, identify yourself as a pilot, and to inspect the drone as well. But there has to be a reasonable suspicion that you're doing something wrong. Is that not correct?
Yeah, you're incorrect there. Yeah, it's,
I'm incorrect.
It's any crime. It's not just with the drone.
So, as I said, my example, I was standing there, no FRZ, doing nothing wrong, not going over a crowd of people, causing no nuisance at all. In my own time, I can show the constable my operator ID, but what gives them the reason? What gives them the right to hurry my drone to land?
Because they may suspect you of being committing an offence.
So they do have to suspect you?
I don't know. I don't know the situation. It's entirely down to each individual situation. I don't know. You could be flying over you might have gone over a school and there's some kids in the playground.
Is that an offence?
It could constitute being a crowd. So there's a bit of a kind of ambiguity around being able to fly these over a crowd. There's no actual, as far as I'm aware, kind
pretty
of
black and white,
definition.
to be honest.
Sorry?
It's pretty black and white.
Not really.
No,
it's,
it is.
Yeah, a crowd of people. So you could have like us three in a kind of, say I own a small flat and we're all kind of crowded in the backyard.
Yep.
That could be taken as a crowd of people. If we're in the middle of the memorial park down the road and we could disperse easily, that wouldn't really be classified as a crowd. So it's a bit ambiguous. Let's be sensible. If there's a crowd of people, don't fly over the top of them. I try and avoid flying over the top of them anyway.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of there's that situation where you might fly over the top of people. I don't know. It depends on the situation.
So I spoke to the National Police Chief Council, and I've actually got a YouTube panel meeting sort of coming up. We're making a sort of a collaboration together, and they told me that the legislation isn't carte blanche for police officers to land any drone they want. It does mean they have to have reasonable suspicion to land the drone. Yeah. But I'm confused now. But you said that they can just land it.
Yeah, if they've got reasonable suspicion.
If they've got reasonable suspicion. So yeah, so I was correct the first time.
So if they've not got a suspicion,
you said reasonable suspicion of committing an offence with the drone. It's not with the drone. It's any offence.
Oh, any offence.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's where the mix-up was. Okay.
If I'm fully satisfied,
actually, when it came out, I thought, oh, that's a lot bigger piece of. I would have thought it was just an offence with the drone, but no,
you'll have the fixed penalty notices soon as well. They're coming out in the next few weeks, I believe.
I would say so. Yeah.
If I'm fully satisfied, then that I'm not committing an offence, but the police are telling me to bring it down, I don't need to.
Is that for you to decide, or is that the court to decide?
Well, we don't want to do the civil claim route, do we, and let them decide. We want to deal with it on the spot. So we want to make the correct decisions.
Yeah, but we're not in the sort of world of Judge Dredd where make decisions about whether things are actually...
Well, I think it would be up to us to decide whether we're going to challenge your request to bring it down, and I think it would be up to you to decide whether we've actually committed an offence and to make the arrest, because obviously you would have to answer for that in civil court if it went wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that you can decide whether or not... If you're committing an offence, or they've got reasonable suspicion that you're committing an offence, should we say, then they can ask you to ground the aircraft.
Okay, so...
that's perfectly reasonable, that's why that bill was there.
Let's take a different piece of legislation. For instance, the Section 50 of the Police Reform Act gives police the powers to take your name and address if they suspect you've been committing antisocial behaviour. Now, I have been requested to give my name and address in that circumstance, but I knew for a fact I'd not committed any antisocial behaviour. I was forced to give details, and once that happened, I then spoke to my solicitor, and Humberside Police offered me £1,000 to make it go away. So, you know, that's the sort of situation I'm talking about, where you would have to answer for it in civil court if you made
situations that I have absolutely no ability to comment on.
Just an example is all, you know.
Okay. I don't see the relevance, but there you go.
We're just trying to raise awareness of people that do not dare. Well, they're getting challenged too much, really, and they daren't question it. They're just assuming that the police are right. They can order you to land the drone. Well, they can't. Come on. Not if you're being lawful.
Says who? So who says you're being lawful?
Well, like I said,
and that's the thing. It's that having that adult conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
Than
but if they're being, if the constable's being unreasonable, then a member of the public should not
have reasonable conversations anymore.
Unfortunately.
Not always, though.
No, you can't.
Not always. Sometimes, you know, the police are a bit sort of overzealous, and they do sort of do as I say now, sort of deal.
Yeah.
I'm sure some people are.
Yeah.
Do you have the capability to disable a DJI Mini 2?
What do you mean?
If I'm flying that somewhere I shouldn't, and it's being a pest, and someone wants it down, have you got the tools to disable it?
Disable it? No.
No?
I don't know what you mean by disable it.
Well,
shoot it out of the sky with a kind of big net.
Armed police did arrive on one of my videos, and I'm wondering why send armed police when you know there's a drone flying? Would armed police shoot down a drone if it was just about to do a drugs drop?
Shoot it down with a gun?
Yeah.
Good grief, no.
No?
No, because I mean, these are fairly nimble things. You have to be one hell of a sharpshooter to actually fire it out of the sky, and then you have to think about your backdrop when you're in the firearms unit.
Okay.
For example, if I just angle myself, you'll see there's some people behind you. If I was a firearms guy,
you're loving this, aren't you?
Yeah. You've got people behind you. If I'm challenging you with a gun, I've got to be conscious of if I shoot you and you're like a ninja and you dive out of the way, I'm going to end up shooting those people. And it's the same thing with shooting a drone out. So you imagine you fire a gun and these things, bullets will go for a long, long way. You've got this bullet flying through the air and then hits little Jimmy, who's on the swings in the park about 3 miles away. It's going to be a nightmare. So I don't think in the world of sensible policing anyone would ever
I've had this question come up before, and it wasn't necessarily talking about police shooting the drone out, but maybe a farmer, something like that.
Oh, people do. Yeah, there's footage on YouTube. I'm sure you've seen people shooting out of the sky.
There's an offence under the Firearms Act to shoot out of the sort of property area you have to maintain. So if you're in a range, for instance, you couldn't shoot out of the range.
Wow.
You couldn't shoot up into the sky. There's an offence
if you've got
there.
like a little air gun or something like that.
Yeah, you're not allowed to shoot into the sky.
Yeah, if you kind of you're shooting in your back garden and one of your pellets goes over into next door's garden, then
potential offence.
I believe that is an offence. I don't know if off the top of my head, but yeah. So but you never start.
I can't remember the exact wording, but it basically has to stay within the property boundary where you're shooting from.
I suppose that's why military training areas are so enormous.
Yeah.
And if I'm flying lawfully and a neighbour or somebody, member of the public, threw like a toilet roll up and disabled my drone and caused damaged.
Oh, it's criminal damage to start.
Probably an offence under.
Throw a rock at it. Or
anything being thrown.
Low enough they can bat it out of the sky. Oh yeah.
So just to confirm, then you have no ability to disable a drone.
No, but I don't personally have any kind of ability to do that.
Right. And a heavy sheet of sleet coming down, would you still operate your drones?
It depends. It's risk over reward. Our smaller drones, no, but they have an IP rating. So between liquid and particulate sort of ingress. So this has a rating of, I think it's 4.6. I think. So it's for the British environment, pretty much weatherproof. The new drone coming out, I think, is even more weatherproof, the M30. But the smaller ones here, these don't have. I'm not sure about the FPV, but certainly this one and the Mavic don't have any rating at all. So if we had a person who nicked a 10p mix from the local police, I don't think we'd stick up a £20,000 drone in driving sleet and rain. However, if it was little old Mrs. Miggins, who's suffering from dementia, it's January, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, she's gone wandering off in a nightie into the middle of a park, and it's hammering with rain, sleet, wind. I don't care if this is going to crash. I want to make sure that Mrs. Miggins is actually safe and sound. So it's risk over reward. 10p mix over someone's life. And our pilots make those kind of dynamic assessments all the time. That's what these things are for. They're to actually protect the public, support them, keep them safe, and our officers on the ground.
They're a great piece of kit.
They are really clever.
Yeah, they're
really clever. Love them.
I mean, even the sort of little ones that we have, they're awesome. They're so good.
I mean, the fact that £500 and you've got like GPS and a 4K camera, amazing. And it's only just going to get better and better and better.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to the beyond visual line of sight. I'm really looking forward
I
to
think
that.
that's going to be a very interesting development.
I think you guys will get it before us, but
maybe. Who knows? Who knows?
I'm looking forward to that.
Fingers crossed, it'll be soon.
Yeah.
Where's your operator ID then?
This one we don't fly at all.
You never fly that?
So this is our little indoor one. All our other aircraft have got the operator ID on, obviously. So because we don't take this out normally, it's purely just a display.
Yeah.
See the light of day.
See the light of day. So yeah.
And does it have to be on the outside or can it be under the battery?
It has to be visible.
Under the battery, no?
Sorry?
Under the battery is a no.
So it's got to be easily visible. So
on the outside of the drone.
On inspection. So you just say what we don't want to do then is have to sort of like mess around and get the back yet. So the obvious place to bring it's normally on the side or on top. And this one was normally used to be on top.
Can I throw a scenario to yourself? I'm breaking no laws. I'm not in an FRZ.
Yes.
I've got line of sight.
Go on.
The drone is now on the floor.
Yes.
I'm with a constable.
Yes.
Can I put my hand over the operator ID so he doesn't see it, just to get my name through PNC?
I don't see why not.
Does he have any entitlement to see that?
So the problem we have, right, and this will be the same across the UK, is you have specialists in every police force, in every role, be that civilian, military area, you have specialists. So if I stop a car and I believe it's committed a traffic offence, I'm not an expert, I put my hands up, I don't know that much about traffic, and then I start getting challenged with regards to the what I'm challenging them about, I would then go and seek advice. I'll be on the radio, so I can speak to a traffic officer, I'll have a conversation with them, make sure I'm doing it legally, lawfully. And it's the same with this. We've only been using drones now in everyday policing for around 5 years in the West Midlands Police. So your everyday response body, those who specialise in crime scenes, those who specialise in murders or public protection, won't have a clue. So if they were to come across a situation like that, they would turn around and say, actually I'm a little bit out of depth here. And rightly so. So that's why there's so many people trained up.
Yeah. Well, wouldn't they contact the drone experts, which is you guys?
Sorry?
They'd contact WMP drones, wouldn't they?
Well, yeah, exactly.
And your answer would be what?
My answer would be, ask me if you can see the operator's ID.
Yeah, because I'm doing no wrong. Why do they want my name?
nothing wrong.
I want to withhold my name and they want my name. In that scenario, do I have to show them the operator ID?
Is there any offences? No.
Thank you. You're on record saying that. What's your number?
21412.
21412.
This is what we were trying to get say earlier. This is what we were
If
saying.
you haven't committed any
Well, you didn't
offences,
answer that question, so how did
if you haven't
join
committed any offences,
literally
then
didn't
the officer
say anything about the operator ID and
shouldn't
covering
need
it
to
up.
sort of see
Well, we have to
covering your
got to show
op ID,
it.
and they can turn
the
around and
answer
say,
is no.
and if that officer's then challenged you,
Actually
you can
put
say,
it
can you
like that. You
please
were asking
seek
about
some further
offences
advice
and
on
stuff,
someone
can you learn that?
from the drone team?
Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Finally. Wow. Brilliant. I'm glad I came here today. No offence to yourself. You've been brilliant as well. You know, it's so educating for us, and we're going to pass that education on, like we always do with our videos. So, thank you so much, guys. Yeah, are we holding you up now? Are we?
Fantastic. Yeah, we've got other jobs to go to, unfortunately.
Okay.
I think they've only had one session today, It's a shame.
Right. Where would I be able to come very close to you in real life when you use this thing and hear it?
When you say come close to us?
Like here, in real life, without the barrier?
Depending on what we're filming, it might be some sensitive stuff. But you can come and look over our shoulder if you really want to.
Yeah, where are you next flying it that you know about?
Oh, I don't know, we do spontaneous instances.
Yeah, I don't want no barrier, you see. I want to hear it. I want to feel like I want to feel it.
If it's landing and taking off, you can't come within 30 metres of us. But yeah, if we're up in the air and we're, I don't know, say at the Radio 1 big weekend.
Oh yeah.
And you want to see, what we can see, then yeah, by all means, come up and say hello.
So
surprise the pilot.
Sorry, Michael.
Because they can be a bit preoccupied, but yeah, can have a look and see what you do. Yeah.
So I've been on a scene where you've been required to take it up to help the fire service, and there's been a cordon, maybe let's just say 10 metres away. That's how close I want to get.
Yeah.
When can I? Yeah. When are you next around?
There is legislation about interfering with an emergency services operation. That's part of that. But
normally cordons on there for your protection.
Yeah, like a fire. There was like that big one in Coventry. Was it last year, a couple of years ago? And when you've got fires in tower blocks, things can like fall down. Yeah, it's for your own safety, and cordons are there so that all the emergency services can operate without hindrances. Because what we don't want is the public sort of wandering around and getting themselves sort of in danger, tripping over. I don't know if it's a fire thing. You've got hoses everywhere and that sort of thing. And certainly at a scene like that, you've got the issue of there might be some unpleasant stuff on screen, which isn't for the general public to consume.
Yeah.
It's not. There's no need for you to see it. So why would you want to?
Speaking of scenes and things, it's my understanding that if you have an emergency service scene, you can put a temporary flight restriction on. So do you know anything about that?
You can put
in terms of for drones.
A blue.
Yeah, you could put temporary flight restrictions on.
How would you go about that? Do you have to ring the Civil Aviation Authority and tell them that this is what we're doing?
You can do it for their website. So Pride, for example.
No, I mean, say for instance, if there was a fire, just spontaneous.
I don't think it would work that quickly with the Civil Aviation Authority. You have to apply for a restricted airspace temporary. But in the legislation, so if you were, say you're flying your drone and you're flying it in the same airspace as this emergency situation, so let's say there'd been a car crash, then you would actually then be, as far as I can remember, be committing an offence because you're within sort of an emergency service. You're interfering with it if it's deemed as you're interfering with it.
Because I wasn't sure if
you're sort of flying and you're miles over there and everything.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was only if you was
if you were
told, or if it was only applied for with the. I wasn't sure what the
no, the ones you go
are.
through the CAA, it's sort of like you apply and I think it takes a while.
Right.
I personally haven't done one, but it's sort of, it used to be filling lots of paperwork. I believe you can do it online now.
Right.
But it's not something we do spontaneously because at 3 o'clock in the morning, I can't imagine the Civil Aviation Authority is sitting there in their office accepting them. And as I say, it takes a while. You have to kind of justify why you're doing it. So it's more pre-planned stuff. So like I say, we had one for Pride last year. May well be one again this year. I don't know. The planning hasn't fully commenced on that from that point of view.
Brilliant. Well, I'm pretty much done here, but
groovy.
You guys are all finished, so we'll let you carry on.
All right. Have a good day, guys. Cheers.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Thank you so much. So there you go, guys. We've got a lot of information there from the West Midlands Police, and they are on Twitter. The Twitter handle down there, look, is DronesWMP. So do follow them. They do put quite a lot on social media. They are engaging with the community like that. So that's brilliant to see. And you'll see here an example of how the parcels could work. You could come in and drop your parcels off and collect them, and then they'd go on the parcel drones to the next version of this. So yeah, I'm about done here now. So we'll have a little walk out, and then we'll end the video. But we've not seen underneath yet, have we? These motors that lift this whole pad up, and you can see the motors down there. Look. And they've got prop shafts connected to a differential in the middle there, and then over to this gear here that pushes the platform up, and lots of weights there to keep it all grounded in case the wind gets under it, I presume. But yeah, I've really found this very interesting, and I hope you have too. And the coffee was amazing. So I'm going to leave this one here. I'll just show you what it looks like from the outside, because we started filming when we got in there, didn't we? So the car park, you know, it still looks like a normal car park. I've still got the sign over there that I mentioned last time, where they are actually going to bring it back into use as a car park afterwards. But that's what it looks like from the outside. We are in a flight restriction zone here, so taking the drone up is probably not going to happen. And you'll see here the Tesla being charged up by one of these electric charging points while you go and have your amazing journey. So when you come back, your car's already charged for you. So yeah, I'll leave this one here, guys, and if you have enjoyed that video, give it a thumbs up for me, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye for now.